Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jess. This is Janet. This is Nori, and this is Zoe. And welcome to our March book club meeting for our first autobiography and first non-fiction book ever, as well. Zoe's first pick of the year. This is your out of comfort zone pick, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't read a lot of non-fiction, so yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're going to be discussing Billy Connolly, Windswept and Interesting. I think it's safe to say we all really enjoyed this book. It was really, really interesting. So without further ado, I'm going to hand off to Zozo. Take it away.
The stress. Okay. My little notes, I've even titled it. We'll start off with just the ordinary. So the Goodreads rating and initial thoughts. I don't mind who starts. Let's start with Nori because we're at the bottom of the screen. Oh no, I feel like I've caught them under pressure.
Find my Goodreads rating.
That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, oh god.
I think I remember, but
why do we never think to do this prior?
Oh, okay. Yeah, good I checked because that wasn't what I thought it was.
I found
Nori.
Never around here.
Are we ready?
I love that I'm the one drinking as well. And
I have
I'm not
lemonade.
I have water. I'm so bored.
Coffee.
I could have a gin and tonic. Sorry.
Shall I start again? Let's start with our Goodreads rating and initial thoughts. And because Nori and I are at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to let Nori go first.
Oh, dang. Well, my Goodreads review is 4 stars. I don't know much about Billy Connolly, but I'm glad I know more now.
Brilliant.
Love it.
That is my thoughts in a nutshell. It's like, oh, that's really interesting. I got the Windswept and interesting. I was like, I don't want to put the word interesting in the review.
Yeah, so typical, huh?
Is
that you done?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Jess, go to the J's.
Okay. I gave it 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't read non-fiction. I don't read autobiographies at all, pretty much. This is only the 3rd autobiography I've ever read. The first one being Born to be Mild by Rob Temple. Highly recommend. It's hilarious. Second one being Lawrence Chaney's, the Drag Queen of Scots. Very, very funny. So yeah, I really didn't have much of a background going into this, but I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. Again, I know of Billy Connolly, obviously, but I don't really know much of his stand-up. I know he's a bit off the wall and things like that. So reading this really opened my eyes to him and what he's been through, and just his way of looking at the world is so fun. I loved it. I really, really loved it. Yeah, and I've got a couple of recorded clips from the audiobook because he reads his own audiobook and it's just so funny. There's one bit where he just breaks out laughing in the middle of telling the story, and it's not in the book anywhere that he's laughing. He's just sat there laughing, remembering the story, and it's so wholesome and I love it. Yeah, it's so Billy.
He also sings in the audiobook.
Oh man, the audiobook.
Yeah, so when he's talking about all these folk songs that he did and all the songs that he sang as a kid, he actually sings them.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get the audiobook.
I love him. Yeah.
Okay, shall I go next?
Yes.
So I gave it 3.5, but actually listening to you talking about the audiobook, Jess, now I'm not a big audiobook person, but I think that would have made my rating higher. Did I say my rating?
Yeah.
3.5. Yeah, okay. Don't know what's going on today. Yeah, I've read more audiobooks, my God.
Are you okay, hon?
What are they called? Autobiographies. Anyway,
yes.
I've read more I can't say it. My
it
God.
Must be in the air.
I've read more of these books than Jess has. I've read Becoming. Even earlier this year, I read a Harry Potter. No.
What an autobiography that is. Oh, Janet.
Oh, Janet.
It's not even been a long day. I'm just not with it. Haven't really left my house in a month. It's catching up.
You're not the one drinking.
Anyway, I've read some autobiographies, but they're not my go-to book of choice or genre of choice. So I feel like for that reason, I didn't give it higher than that, because I'm not a massive Billy Connolly fan. Like, kind of like Jess, like I've probably seen him mostly in films rather than any of his stand-up and anything else he's done. So yeah, I feel like there was a lot that if I was more of a fan, I would have appreciated more. And also if I'd listened to the audiobook, I probably would have just, it sounds more like engaging maybe, or, you know, that he sings and he adds things to it that you don't get in the book. I think that would make it really amazing. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say for now. But it was a fun read and it did make me laugh a few times. So I was like,
Solid. Jimmy. I gave it 5, but
which is rare from Zoe, we should say.
It is massively rare. However, it's kind of a 5. So my review was, this is just so brilliantly Billy. It flows to the rhythm of his own mind, and that's just what makes it so perfect for me. 5-star human means a 5-star book. So I've given it 5 stars, but I think I've given Billy 5 stars. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So the book itself isn't the most, you know, it's not the best, like, written book or whatever. You know, it's not like I read the book and I was like, wow, this is the best book I've ever read.
It's not groundbreaking, it's prose, no.
Yeah, I mean,
not the book I'm currently writing. So,
so from that point of view, like, it was still brilliant. Like, and I loved it, and I loved the fact that because I am a huge Billy Connolly fan, and always have been. He's like one of my favorite humans on earth. I was reading it like in his voice, and I kind of, some of the stories he tells in it I've heard before, like watching his clips. I saw him live in Hammersmith like 5 years ago, I don't know, a few years ago, and you know, some of the stories from like that and things that he's quips he's said are in there, and I'm like, classic Billy. So I gave it 5, but I think because I couldn't give it anything less, because I think I was rating Billy more than I'm rating the book. That's why I've given it 5, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that? That made me shout. So yeah, I really liked it, and I think, as I say, knowing I've read his other one, which is down there somewhere. It's just called Billy, I think, which his wife wrote. I can't see it, but it's down there somewhere. So I've read another one of his, so I've had more of an insight into like his history and things like that before. So some of this was reading it from his perspective, because this is the first book he's ever written just entirely from him.
Okay.
He's, you know, it's his words, his writing, whereas like the other ones that have come out have been by someone else, or like Billy, his wife Pamela wrote. So yeah, I think reading it from that, I was like, oh, this is so authentic, and that's what I think I really, really liked from it. So yeah, that's me. I don't know what Mariette's view was. Does anyone?
No, I don't know.
I'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. All right. I will go. Shall I wait till they're back?
You can do, yeah. Like, I love that you were saying like you rated Billy the Man as like 5-star, because it is so authentically him. Even when I wasn't reading it with the audiobook, I was just sat reading it occasionally. You could hear his voice coming across it. One thing I really loved was that he's like, I'm doing this all like dictaphone and transcribing it from voice and things like that. This thing can't understand the Glaswegian accent.
Yeah.
And he's just sat there like his kids having to transcribe it all, and it's just like, I found that hilarious.
I think I definitely, because I didn't listen to the audiobook, and I really want to go in, like Janet, you know, I really want to listen to it now. But I read it in his voice, which I think sometimes you need to, because he writes with his Glaswegians and intonations and things like that, and spellings and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it had such an impact on me that the book I picked up afterwards, Fable by Adrian Young, I started reading in a Glaswegian accent. I was just like, ruin me.
I love as well that like the all of his chapter titles are just so random.
But they make sense when you've read the chapter.
When you've read the chapter.
Yeah.
So good.
Like,
Which one?
Don't trust food that comes in a bucket.
I mean, this isn't one of my questions, but while we're waiting for Nori, does anyone have a favorite chapter title?
Ooh.
Content, not specific, just
Yeah.
that's funny.
Let me stick up the spoiler-free banner.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we should have also done trigger warnings.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
There are
I'll do
some-
that. Shall I do that now while you're going there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to discuss. There are going to be talks of. Oh, I wrote them down. Abuse, both emotional, physical, and sexual,
Of a minor.
of a minor. Abandonment. There's talks of suicides, accidents, alcoholism. What else is there?
Cancer.
Cancer, Parkinson's. What else? There's quite a lot.
School beatings.
Pardon?
Treatment of students. So school beatings.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there's that in there.
Mm.
There's a lot of religious aspects in it. We're not going to go into that too much, but nothing's ever derogatory. I'm just throwing that out there now.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of talk about religion and Catholic nature. So that stuff's in there. Oh, they're back.
Woo!
I
yeah.
have returned with food and I'm now sitting on the floor.
Love that.
Iconic.
Because that is where my food is.
Good.
It's a roast dinner. I feel like such a
Nice.
Oh.
Just looking at the contents for the chapter titles. My favorite one, plot your escape.
Yeah. Yeah, there are just so many. Get yourself a fire-breathing hoochie coochie dancer.
Yeah.
Another
that's a
one
good
is never change planes to wash your socks.
Yeah.
Don't remember why that was chapter 7 apparently, but
I think it's because is it Billy Holland? No, not Billy Holland. What's his name?
Was it Johnny Cash?
No, it was one of the musicians who went. There was like that big plane crash. And
Oh yeah.
Billy something, I think.
Yeah.
Billy Idol?
No, I don't know. It's referenced in House in the Cerulean Sea, but yeah.
Yeah. So there was like, I think it was to do with the fact that he was like, no, I need to. I'll get a later plane because I'm on tour and I really need to wash my clothes. And the later plane got on was.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it 26? Don't eat anything that comes in a bucket. And then there's just the little taglines at the end.
yeah.
347.
I don't like that statement because I will eat anything that comes in a bucket.
Not that I eat chicken anymore, but like, chicken in a bucket, like chicken nuggets.
Mm. Take your knickers down and dance. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, now Nori's back. Shall we start? Because I've got a lot of questions.
Let me know when you want to go into the spoiler zone, Zoe.
How do you...
Is
There isn't really a spoiler zone in this because it's not a plot. It's just his story.
Yeah.
So,
No,
do we
it's
have
If
a
anyone
spoiler?
doesn't want to know about the life of Billy Connolly.
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 Turn off now. Connolly.
Connolly. Yeah, I have to say it like that, otherwise I get confused. Connolly.
I quite like it, to be honest. I quite like the pronunciation. All right. We've kind of covered this a little bit. However, I'm going to ask it anyway because it's at the top of my list. So I've written, what were people's knowledge levels of Billy prior to reading the book, and how does your opinion differ now? We've kind of already done it, and I've kind of already said it, so I won't answer this one.
Okay.
I loved him then. I love him still.
About the only thing I'd seen him in was, you remember the original A Series of Unfortunate Events movie? He plays the second, he's the second one they go to.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, I would need to watch it again, but that rings a bell.
He's
His
so
voice
kind.
is the king in Brave.
Yes, he is.
Oh my God, he was,
He's the
yeah.
dad in Brave. He's the dad
He's
in
in
Brave.
so many films, and that and my uncle always getting mistaken for him was literally my only exposure. Because my uncle used to have long hair, and he used to look exactly like Billy Connolly, and he used to get people going, "Oh, Billy, can we have a photo?" And it's just like, mate, you got the wrong person. As soon as they heard the voice, they
Yeah.
just went, oh, okay. So yeah, that was literally my only exposure to him. But I loved reading this book. Like, I knew going into it, like Zoe, you'd said that he's led a really rough life. Mum had said as well, and I was just like, oh, like it's going to be like the war and things like that. And I didn't expect all of the like abuse that he went through and how he just took it lying down, and how like that was the saddest part, in that he didn't stand up for himself. He was so browbeaten. It was so sad. And I have mad respect for the man because he like forgave and everything like that. And yeah, I'm just hats off to everything he's been through.
Yeah. Well, mine was basically 0 to start off with. Like, other than the film, I knew nothing about his life. I knew it's that Scottish comedian, you know, with the funny hair, and like that was kind of it. So yeah, even the films, like when we were mentioning them, I was like, oh yeah, he was in that. Oh yeah, he was in that. So yeah, I think just now I've just learned more about him, and like you say, I've got more respect and understanding of the things that he's gone through and how he's become who he is, I guess. So yeah, I think that's kind of all.
Yeah, I had very basic knowledge of like, oh, I've seen him in this film. I've seen him in that film. I know a little more, slightly more. My dad really likes his stuff that he does with the motorbikes. It's like, work on like the Route 66 thing. My dad's quite a big fan, but I was like, oh yeah, he seems cool. And I was like, watch this clip. He's like, I don't really want to, but okay. My dad's that type of person. Have you seen this clip? And then it's like, no, I haven't. And then 20 minutes later, he's coming up to you with a phone. He's like, watch this 20-minute clip. But also remember, you have to eat your dinner. Right.
I sometimes watch his clips and I can't sleep. I'm like, I'm going to watch that again because that's so funny. I'm going to send you guys a clip of the one he does about talking to the TV in the wildebeest. It is so funny. I'm going to send it to you after this. Relatable.
I think the most surprising, because I'm not that familiar with him and his comedy, was like he doesn't script anything or basically anything. And I was like,
yeah,
nah. But then I was kind of like, I guess the more I read it, the more I was like, I mean, I can see it. I can see that being successful. So I mean, obviously it is. Like, but
I had no idea that he just did it off the cuff. I thought like he did like most comedians that it's scripted, but it still feels off the cuff. Like Michael McIntyre, for example, and Joe Lycett. They both feel very off the cuff, but it is scripted. So Michael will say something and then he'll come back to it like an hour later and you'll suddenly be like, oh, okay. And Joe Lycett does the same thing. But to completely make it up as you go along, like just to be talking like with your mates in a pub, like again, mad respect to him because that is difficult to do. And like you say, reading the book, you can kind of see that's how he does it because it is very much stream of consciousness. He'll say something, then he'll go back to his childhood, then he'll come back to the original topic, then he'll go on again, and it flows somehow. It works.
Yeah, I think that was
you guys are already bringing my points into it. I love it.
Sorry.
No, it's great. Carry on.
I was going to say, like, that actually reminded me. I feel like that's partly why I rated it what I did, was because I think it took me a while to get into that sort of stream of consciousness writing style, because part of me was like, why is he talking about this now? Or, oh, why is he talking about that? Oh, yeah, he talked. So I had to it took me a while to kind of realize that's just the way he was thinking when he was writing it. And it kind of makes sense, I guess, if you know him and his writing style, maybe. I don't know. Or his comedy style. But yeah, I did find it a little, not like it was hard to follow, but just a little bit. I don't know.
Jess like phone up.
I was just like,
not
do I
caught with my nuts putting halfway to my face?
I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Anyway,
I'm so busy posing.
Carry on.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead then to. I'll go back to my other points, but we'll carry on. So my other point, one of my points was never has a scripted show. And he obviously talks about that later in the book, how I think he's in Australia and he meets a guy that he knows and he says, oh, Billy, your show was so funny. And he's like, oh, I've made it up on the spot. And he didn't believe me. So I come back to the show tomorrow. And he did. And obviously the show is completely different. There are it's 100% true. He does do that. And he just kind of goes on stage and just rambles about whatever he wants. And it's quite impressive because he does start a story. It will trigger something else in his head, so he goes off on that tangent, but then he somehow still manages to bring it back to the other story, and somehow that intermittent tangent that he went on somehow seems to fit within the original story. So I suppose it's quite hard to believe that it isn't scripted. But then okay, there are jokes and stuff that he does say that he repeats. So like kind of one-liners that are brilliant. Well, not that any of the stuff he says isn't brilliant, but there's like one specific one, because obviously he has Parkinson's, and that's quite an ongoing theme within this book. When I saw him, whenever I went to see him a few years ago, he made the joke. It was just when it was like his last tour. It was the High Horse tour. He was just starting to really visibly show his signs and symptoms for Parkinson's. You know, one of the things that made him so iconic was in his heyday was his flamboyant nature on stage, how he'd walk probably like a marathon during his show, and how like his shows could go on for 4 hours sometimes because they're not scripted. And there's one story in there he talks about how he wanted to go to the next day, so he finished his show at 1 minute past midnight because the audience didn't want it to end, and things like that. So obviously when I saw him, and he was so immobile, like he just kind of stood in one spot and he didn't have much use of his arms and stuff. It was really different. However, one of the jokes he said in that was, "Oh, I've got Parkinson's disease," and then he said, "I wish the bastard had kept it, to be honest." And it was really funny. And I've heard him say that again, and it's in the book. So I was like, hey, he said that on stage. So there are like one-liners, I think, that he keeps that he knows are funny and knows that work well. But yeah, the majority of his stuff, as you say, he just goes off on one, and will somehow put together a 4-hour stage show from nothing. I think it's quite impressive.
I love that. It was just like the show is coming to a close and it was only like 10 o'clock, and he was just like, well, I've always wanted to do a show that starts on one date and ends on another. Are you up for it, folks? And they all went, ah! So we finished at 1 minute past midnight. And I just like, that is commitment and dedication to your craft. And
100%.
It's just amazing, like, to think that someone can do that, can just keep thinking of stuff. I suppose as an introvert,
and it's so like comical.
Yeah.
I know, like,
my social batteries run out. I don't want to talk anymore. I just want to curl up in a corner. No, like I can't imagine being able to do that again.
And this, like, when he finds himself so funny as well, it's not embarrassing to watch him laugh at himself. Just even funnier. Like he'll be on stage and he'll just suddenly start chuckling at the story he's trying to tell, and he'll have a laughing fit for 10 minutes, and you're like, this is comedy gold.
And again, it's like not a lot of comedians can get away with that. Lee Evans is one of the ones who can get away with that. I think probably because his laugh is so deep.
Yeah.
Because he just starts laughing at himself, but then you start laughing at his laugh.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, this is how we're going.
This is how we're rolling from now, Lee.
Yeah, literally. So yeah, talking about that, the bit where he just starts laughing in the audiobook is in chapter 20, Embrace the Non Sequitur. And I'll play this because it is really funny. It's when he's talking about the pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like to adapt stories about life in Glasgow. Anthony Dougal told me he was in a pub in Greenock when a fireman came in and stood next to him at the bar. He put a cardboard box in front of him and ordered a drink. Then he said to the guy on the other side of him, "I'm going for a piss. Could you keep an eye on my do?" Do is Scottish for pigeon. The guy said, "Sure." The box was closed though, and the guy was curious. He wondered if there really was a do in there or not. So he couldn't resist opening the box. The pigeon shot out and started flying around the pub. It landed on one of the highest rafters. Everyone was trying to get it down. They're all making pigeon noises, as if that was going to help. The fireman comes out the toilet furious. "What did you do with my do?" "I just got curious and I opened the box and it flew out." The fireman says, "Get me a ladder." Someone got him a ladder and they put it up to the rafter. He was halfway up the ladder and had nearly caught the pigeon. When the who let it out decided to grab a cloth and take a mighty swipe at it. The bird took off in fright and flew away to the other side of the pub. The fireman says to the barman, "Do us a favour. Phone for 2 ambulances. One for the do and one for this bastard."
He just keeps laughing. It's so funny.
Oh my gosh, I love him.
I love his accent. Yeah.
His voice is so iconic. I love it.
Janet's back and eating and listening, but I have a weird thing about people watching me eat, lol, so I'll sit and listen for now. Fair dues. Fair dinkum.
Okie dokie. I feel that, hon.
Not have some qualms.
If you have any comments, drop them in our group chat, Janet.
I'll move on to the influence of music on Billy, because he's very, one of the ongoing things is like his love for the banjo, and then obviously he started out as a musician, and obviously at the beginning he said that he wanted to have banjo lessons, but his dad told him not to, or he didn't think his dad would like it, so he never did it. And then obviously picks it back up later in life, and it becomes such a huge thing. And obviously the reel that we posted on our Instagram today has one of the songs that he wrote and did with the banjo, and it's just, and he keeps doing it through like his shows. He'll whip the banjo out and things like that. So what do you think the influence of music is on Billy?
I think it's major.
Anyone
It's a
can
major
go.
part of who he is. It's such a major part of who he is. A lot of comedians you'll find are musicians as well. But I think it's such an integral part of who he is and how he came to be a comedian and a performer, because he starts off in the pubs as he wants to be someone who travels around like basically a hobo. That's like his life ambition at one point, is he wants to travel around on the trains and just play folk music. And I love that that's his aspiration, like when he's young and starting out. And yeah, and then obviously he forms the Humble Bums and starts touring, and it starts to get noticed and things like that. And yeah, it's such a vital part of who he is. And slowly he started to work in the comedy as well. But yeah, I think if he hadn't seen that banjo, maybe we might not have got Billy Connolly as we know him today. It's one of those what if moments.
Massively.
Yeah.
Nori.
It's sort of like, I'm trying to say this without sounding pretentious, but it's sort of like music is the way his soul communicates. Mainly.
Yeah.
Music and comedy.
That's a Noriism.
How does your soul communicate? Mine it's silences.
Janet agrees
Janet,
with us.
You too. Thanks, Jan.
It's just sort of
I can just
like,
imagine her waving at the screen.
I think
Carry on,
even
Nori.
if he didn't find the banjo, he would have found something. It would still be different. The alternate timeline would be crazy as hell. Well, this one isn't, but...
Can you imagine Billy Connolly picking up the piano? He wouldn't be able to lift it. Did you hear, Mum?
Literally, or the skill?
I was gonna say, did you just hear what Mum said?
No,
she said he
I
wouldn't be able
wish
to
I
lift
had.
it. I was just like, can you imagine Billy Connolly
It's
picking
true.
up the
He
piano?
wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
lift
Oh, he
it.
wouldn't be able to lift it. Mum and Nipper.
Classic bin.
Choice.
Classic
we love
Mama
her.
Bear.
We love her.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm going to scratch on because I've got a few. Okay, so we're probably going to talk about some abuse now, just a trigger warning if people don't want to listen to this bit. So Billy talks a lot about the years of
Trigger warning section. Ad banner.
Thank you. So
That's okay.
Billy talks a lot about the years of abuse he suffered growing up. How do you think that shaped him? He does discuss his protective nature now over his own kids, and how that was a consequence of the things that he suffered. So how do you think the abuse he suffered growing up shaped him?
Nori, do you want to go first, or?
Not sure, because he seems like to have worked on it, because abuse is something I don't have hardly any personal experience of, but it's something that could be so integral, particularly at such a young age, that I think sort of the way he handled it was like, trying to think of the words, sort of like, he did that thing of like, oh, it doesn't matter, push it away, make joke, fun times, jazz hands. But it's also like, I think as he got older, he sort of went back and faced those demons, and now he's like put it in writing. So it's like
Yeah.
I sort of found this and I've accepted this. Still crap and still horrible, and I would never want it to happen to anyone else.
Yeah. He
It's very
spent time repressing a lot of his issues.
yeah.
Yay, Janet's back.
Come back.
It might
Do you
have
ever think that like
contributed
comedy is kind of a deflection of it? Sorry, Jan.
Yeah.
sorry.
I think like he sort of has one of those senses of humour where he will go to the places where other people won't go, which sometimes can also be a way of coping with the darker things in life. Sort of like, it's like, oh, there's a demon under my bed. I'm not going to be scared of it or hide it away. I'm going to go drag it out and laugh at its face. And then put it back under there because I don't want anyone else to see it.
I like that. That's a really good analogy, actually. I totally agree. I think it really shaped who he came to be. I think he probably would have been still a bit off the wall and close to the edge with his comedy, because I think that's just like a part of like, because again, Lawrence Chaney is quite close to the edge with their drag and things like that. I think that's just maybe a Glaswegian thing. But I think that the abuse that he did suffer from his aunt and then from his father as well, and his abandonment, his mum abandoned him, and then because he was obviously so close to his sister, and then seeing his not really
Man, wasn't it?
yeah, Michael is his cousin. All right, yeah, his cousin, who is basically raised as his brother. Seeing him get all the love and attention from his aunts really must have messed with his head, but he still remained so kind, and it's amazing how he didn't grow up more bitter and twisted. Like he proved to be the bigger person, and I just have like such mad respect for him for that. So yeah, I think it definitely shaped who he was, but he didn't allow it to shape him for the worse. I think he allowed it to shape him for the better. In a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, how did you word the question, Zoe? There was something you said.
Billy talks a lot about the years of abuse he suffered growing up. How do you think that shaped him? And specifically, he talks about his now protective nature of his children and what was that being as a consequence of the abuse.
Yeah, I mean, coming from someone who hasn't suffered anything even remotely like what he's been through, even at a young age, from like the way I see it was, I mean, I think something like that would shape anyone. And like everyone else has kind of said, like, it's great that he didn't sort of go down the sort of stereotypical route of being like I don't know, ending up in jail or something horrible, or doing something, making the wrong decision, which, you know, everyone makes mistakes and makes the wrong choices and stuff in their life. But I was going to say something, and now it's gone. Oh, that's annoying. It was a good point as well. It was really deep.
Must be something in the air.
Moment of Janet.
Yeah, I was gonna say it must be something in the air tonight, because me, Mum, and Nan have all been like that today.
Yeah.
I'm like that every day.
Yeah, I've been
It's Easter. It's the time of I washed my car today, which I never do.
Well done. Proud of you.
Love that.
It's one of those days where it's like, you have to do something. And then your brain just goes, we've done something. No more, please.
I literally just went for a walk today. I have done nothing, so.
Oh my gosh, same. High five.
Love that. Oh, like this. Okay.
I was gonna say, thanks, Janet. Woohoo! Have we got back to our deep thought yet? Shall I carry on?
I'm trying to think. Hang on. I'll probably think of it later, to be honest. If I think of it, I'll be like, oh, wait. But
Okay.
for now, it's gone.
With that intonation as well, please. We're expecting it all.
All right.
I think it's super interesting because there is obviously a moment in the book where he stops the abuse, doesn't he? He hits that moment of maturity and he's like, you will never hit me again. And that's it. And I think it takes so long for him to realize that he isn't the product of the abuse, and he is his own person. And obviously the years of going like cycling with his friends and disappearing for hours or days on end and kind of figuring out who he is and suddenly realizing that he doesn't deserve the abuse he's been getting. And it's such a pinnacle moment. I feel it was quite a powerful moment. I mean, I don't know what it sounds like in the audiobook. Yes, Janet.
I remembered.
Where's the correct delivery, please?
Oh, I got it.
There
I
we
can't
go.
remember.
Okay, go.
I was going to talk about like trauma. So big topic, but like for a lot of people, you might go years without sort of suffering from that trauma or think it's normal or whatever. And it might be like 20 years later that you realize how badly you were treated, and then it might sort of kick in. So yeah, I think that was quite an interesting way, because he was talking about the one point he was in the car with his wife. Was it when his dad died or something like that? And that's when it was like the first time he told anyone about what happened. And I don't know if that was the first time he realized how awful it was. I don't think it was the first time he realized, but just telling someone obviously was a big thing. And I think it's good that he didn't let it sort of bubble up in a way that he could like just explode and, you know, let it all out and stuff. Like, I think it just shows like his maturity, and maybe he has accepted it, like that it's happened and it's in the past and that it wasn't okay, but now he can just live, I guess. I don't know. But that's what I was going
to quote The Lion King, the past can hurt, but you can either run from it or learn from it.
Yeah.
I got the bump to prove it. Iconic. Yeah, fantastic point, Janet. Well worth waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's right. It's such a, because I think the thing as comedians as well is that they use life experience to gain content, but it doesn't seem for Billy that he actually like plays on it a lot. I don't think I've ever seen, I mean, I haven't watched everything he's ever done, so I can't say for sure, but I've never seen a clip where he's talking about his family in that way. You never hear him say about making a joke of how his aunt used to emotionally abuse him. Like it's not, he doesn't play on it. It's just the truth. And he talks about how that's what he went through. He talks about what made him question this and what made him question that, how he views the world now because of the years where he felt like he was doing everything wrong. And I think there's a bit as well where his friend says, or it might have been his cousin, I can't remember, says that he says to him, I wish he wouldn't do that. As in, like, it's one of the moments where she's been abusive to him and tried to make him look stupid and small in front of his friend. And his friend's just like, I hate it when she does that. And it's just the fact that it's so obvious to everyone. It's like, why has no one ever stepped in and tried to stop it? But his dad doesn't know, does he, for a long time? And you're like, oh, that's so sad. But at the same time, you're like, you're also an idiot. like it's so hard. It just doesn't feel like there's ever a safe zone for him, bar maybe his sister. And I think that's really, really sad. But again, it just shapes him as a person, not as a comedian, I feel like, if that makes sense.
I don't know if it's because I read it a while. Sorry, I was going to say about his sister. I feel like he talks about her a lot, but I don't remember there being that many stories with her, especially like later on in his life. There was a lot at the beginning. So I was wondering, I mean, I don't know, maybe just there wasn't anything to say, but I feel like he was always talking about her in such a good way. I kind of wanted to see her more in the story, but
it's possible,
I don't know,
because she's died, he might not have wanted to. But
I
don't
think
know.
it's too personal or just
I don't know though, but yes, you're right. Jess, what were you going to say?
I was going to say something like you're saying about like his dad not realizing about the abuse, but I think with his aunt, she didn't leave a lot of physical markers. It was a lot of mental abuse that he suffered at the hands of his aunt, which is almost worse because then they are hidden and it's only the victim and the perpetrator that knows about it, really. And it's a lot easier to hide that sort of thing. And that was what really got to me, I think, was how he just sucked it up and was just like, I'll just carry on with life. Eventually I'll get out from underneath her feet and I'll be able to live my own life. But it was just so sad seeing that that's what his mental state devolved to. And then, like you say, he had that moment where he realized, I'm 6 foot, I'm a bloke. If she does try to hit me, which she did occasionally, he was like, you try that again and I'll break your jaw, sort of thing. And I was just like, now you've realized. And then she never abused him again. Wasn't it that aunt that ended up in a mental institute as well?
Yeah.
And it's just like, what was that woman going through that led her to take out her frustrations on this small child who was helpless in the world and had never done anything wrong, but she perceived it as a slight. And you go into like the spiral then of like yes, she is responsible, and yes, she is at fault here, but also what's going on underneath the surface of her.
Mm.
And
he never speaks particularly ill of her either, does he?
Yeah.
And
No.
like there's family pictures and stuff, and he doesn't say she's the best person in the world, but he never actually explicitly says anything.
I wonder if
horrible
it's
about
like
her.
now he knows. I like with everyone. I think everyone knows more about mental health, and at the time he probably would have been like, "Oh, she's just crazy," whatever. I don't know. But now I think he probably has more of an understanding of like, well, maybe it wasn't her, but something going on that we didn't understand at the time. So maybe he has a bit more empathy, or I don't know, something. I don't know.
Again, I have mad respect for him for treating her with such kindness in the book, because I know that there are certain people in my life that if I were to write an autobiography, I would not be kind to them from day one. I would be laying into it. So again,
I'm awaiting that day. I have a list.
Again, it's just like he takes the moral high ground, and he could so easily be like, yeah, this person was awful to me, here's all the ways that they were awful, don't you hate them too? And try to make us turn against these people, but he does it in such a kind way, and it's a testament to him as a person and as a writer as well, that you can feel almost not sorry for these people, but the more you look into it, you start to realize that maybe there was something else going on under the surface, and yeah, I don't know. It really makes you think.
Yeah, shall we just ring up Billy and ask him?
Dream.
With the way things are going, with writers liking and following our
I know.
Instagram, fingers crossed.
For those who don't know, Jodi Taylor followed us on Twitter today. She is the author of was it last month's choice?
One damn thing after another.
One damn.
So there we
Oh
go.
my gosh, if I met Billy Connolly, I would collapse.
I'm going to one of Derek Landy's book signings tomorrow, so
Just I'm surprised you haven't as one of your picks. It's not a Derek Landy one that you've chosen yet.
because I'm trying to pick ones that aren't rereads for me.
True. I'm proud of you.
I will make you read Skullduggery at some point. But anyway,
I've read the first one, so you can lay off me. Right.
Nori, do you have anything else to say on that? You were pretty quiet during that last one.
It's just like,
you don't have to.
I remember it not being like overly explicit, whereas some people would go into like explicit detail with this kind of topic, particularly if they're writing it about themselves. He was very much like, this happened, I'm not going to go into it.
Yeah.
But it happened from this date to this date. And it was very much like, I just want to give Billy Connolly a hug, tell him everything's going to be okay, but I don't think the words for a 25-year-old are going to be much comfort.
You never
Nearly
know.
26.
Don't get excited about that.
I'm not. This is my fake face.
I see. I think he's at a point in his life now, isn't he, where he's just like, hey, it happened. I don't hate on anyone. This is life, you know?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything to say on that one? The next one is not triggery and is actually more nice to talk about.
No, I think I'm good.
All right, there we go.
Y'all good? Sensational. Okay. Wait. Yeah. So I love how casually he talks about his accomplishments, particularly later in life, as if they are just points of reference in his life. E.g., I was in America filming when this pivotal moment in life happened. So he doesn't ever make out like he's not arrogant in any way. He's just like, you know, he doesn't shy away from the things that he's done, but again, it's just fact. It happened. You know, he filmed with this person and he toured around this point.
He just
does because they're his friends, like, you know. Yeah. And I think when there's like a couple of times he talks about, oh, I was in Australia filming, or I was doing this, and he's like, and I bumped into a guy on the street that knew this person. I managed to connect these two people back together who'd lost touch. And, you know, the fact that he talks so casually about these amazing things, like if you know, for us to think, oh, I was filming all over the world and I was touring, we're like, wow, that's astronomical. And yet the thing that he focuses on is the fact that this channel of his success has allowed him to bring two people together, or like has allowed him the opportunity to be a catalyst in like a very small but sentimentally powerful thing. I just think that's so brilliantly the way he writes it. And I imagine it's because when he's storytelling anyway, and similarly I can imagine in the audiobook, he's just telling a story, and it just so happens that the setting for this story is in, you know, Alaska with, you know, Elton John. So it's that's not I don't think that actually happened, but you know, it's that kind of thing. And I've always really appreciated the fact that he can talk so openly about the things that have happened to him, but it's never the focus of the story. It's always about what that opportunity has allowed him to do.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? Go forth.
As I say, I loved like that one about the brothers when he was in Johannesburg, and it was just like, yeah, no, I lost touch with my brother, and it's like he's, I think, on the streets now, and he's like, oh well, I'll have a chat around, because he'd heard loads of Glaswegians in Johannesburg or something, and it was just like, oh yeah, he's over there. And he literally went over and went, your brother's looking for you. He was in my show last night. Like, I'll set up a meeting. And it was just so beautiful, like so human, that moment. Like, I don't think anybody else would do that for somebody. Like, no one with his level of fame. I can't imagine doing something like that, like going to ground and doing the groundworks to basically find a missing person. And it was just so beautiful and so human, and like he's never forgotten where he's come from, and I think that's like the most beautiful part of it. Like, he's always referring back to like his roots and how he came from nothing to what he's got now. I think he just kept us in like, oh yeah, I was in the Queen's New Year's honours list, but that's not a big thing. Here's this thing that I did that helped this person, and I love that. I absolutely adored those moments.
Yeah, I think one part for me kind of links to that was the moment I realized in his band, was it the Humble Bums? He was with the guy from, was it Steelers Wheel, or is that the band? But this anyway, no, I can't remember the name of the band. Anyway, his like co-bandmate, I don't know what's the term, but he's like in a big band that is like has a really famous song. Now I can't remember his name. Anyway, I was like, wait, oh my god, is it that guy? Hang on. And then I was like, wait, I know that song. And then I was like, it was one of those moments. He was just there like, oh yeah, he also went on to do this, whatever the band was that he was in. I was like, hang on. Hang on. I'll have to check and see what the guy's name was now. But yeah, that was.
Well, he was with the guy called Tam, and then it was Jerry something.
Yeah,
Jerry.
Was it Rafferty?
I don't know.
Or am I just misremembering? Is that the wine talking? I don't know.
Yeah, let me Google the. Are you Googling it?
He's so self-depreciating, and it's brilliant. But in like, not, you know, he's like, look at the state of me. It's questionable outfits. I love it all. Like he's got me with my pal Michael Caine.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I like the fact he sort of name drops at the same time doesn't name drop, because like he says the full name once and then just uses like if the full name, so it's like, oh yeah, my friend Tom. It's like, Tom, which Tom? You find it's like, oh, it's also Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
Tom was doing this. It's like Tom.
Yeah, the guy
Classic
I was thinking of, Jerry Rafferty. The band Steelers Wheel, they did Stuck in the Middle with You. That song.
I love that song.
So he was the Humble Bums guy. So that's why I was like, wait, oh my god.
Yeah. He just normalizes everyone, doesn't he? Like with the bit in the picture with Michael Caine, he's just like, where is it? I just had it.
My grandpa was in Michael Caine's class at school, so
nice.
He didn't tell me that literally the last couple of years of his life, and I was just like, you sat on this for 80 plus years and didn't tell me.
He says it with my pal Michael Caine on the set of Water in St. Lucia. He's like, I stole his umbrella. It's just so like, that's the point of the picture. It's like, not that you're sat with Michael Caine on the set of a huge film. It's the fact that you stole his umbrella.
Yeah,
we love
it. Judi Dench is a terrible gambler.
And
Judi Dench.
They'd be betting on something, like someone on the cast or the crew or something, and she'd be like, I'll bet you 50 quid. And he'd go, you're on. She never lost. He made a lot of money.
Like this one, proof that I know Dame Judi Dench on the set of Mrs. Brown. It's like, why do you need to prove that. I just it's so good.
Pick or it didn't
Being
happen.
threatened by Sean Connery, I had made fun of him on the stage. You've done well for a guy with a speech impediment. Like, he's so casual about everything. Congratulating Robin Williams, showing off my. It's just everything's so literal. It's like, this is just
He was
it.
really good friends with Robin Williams, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that made me almost cry.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's so
I think
he's
Robin
just
Williams is like
oh.
the face of our childhood.
R.I.P. There's a lot of his accomplishments involve him being naked, and that's something he's very proud of. And I think that's
As he
something
should.
to be celebrated.
I think I slightly blocked that part of the book out originally, and I was naked. It's like, okay.
I vividly remember one of the first, because he's done all of these, like, his travels in wherever. I want to say it was it in America? I can't remember. It might have been a Scotland one. I'll always remember one of my, like, youngest memories or earliest memories is we were watching one of those, and it finishes with him on one of his trikes, which he's, again, famous for, and he's just naked on it, and he's just driving down the highway, and it's like an aerial shot. And I always remember, like, that being because I was a lot younger then. I remember that being like the last shot of an image. I was like, who is this guy and why is he allowed to do that?
That is one of your core batteries.
That's a core memory of Billy Connolly right there. And that's just something that he does just celebrate about his life, and I think that's quite hilarious. I wouldn't follow in his particular footsteps there, but all power to him.
It's just constantly referenced throughout the whole book, though, isn't it? Like, constantly it's just like, have a willy out, and it's just like, okay, Billy, okay, you do you.
Okay.
You do you.
Thank you. Yeah. But it's not, I mean, I didn't particularly find it that offensive. I was just like, because it's
No,
Billy.
it's not written in any way to cause offence or anything. It's just like, yeah, I do it. Doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
And
I like that, like, one of the first times he did it, his, like, sister was on a bus going by. She's like, and later on she said, I saw some of your friends at the beach. Oh, they were running along the pier naked. He's like, my friend. Like,
yes, definitely my friend. Yes, definitely not your younger brother. Yes, okay, Fly.
Definitely not me.
I think as well, because he sees he meets his mother. He talks about how he meets up with his mother again in later life and stuff. And I love how he can literally intersperse something as serious as that, and then in the next paragraph he's talking about how he was jumping off a pier with nothing on, and like how the two combine it's just brilliant. Just brilliant. Anyone else on anything else we've just talked about? I have finished all of this page's notes.
Nice.
It's just this one to go. Anyone have anything else to say?
I don't think so.
I love the man. That's yeah.
It's
I
popular.
think there's a good thing for him.
Cool chaos in the house of Nori. Yeah.
Always is.
What do you feel? Well, I mean, it's the best way to be. This is just a chaotic family.
We are chaos.
What do you feel the welder years of his life gave him?
Ooh.
I feel like it gave him a lot of, well, I guess if we're kind of going back to earlier with his sort of upbringing, like a sort of sense of real community in a lot of ways, because I feel like at school, he was like, sure, he probably had school friends and stuff, but obviously his home life wasn't so great. School wasn't necessarily easy for him. So I feel like there he was just accepted as he was. So I think that was definitely a big part in him becoming who he is now. But also he says, he still has a lot of respect for people in that industry and things like that. So I think in that side of things, I mean, I guess it'd be the same with anyone. And, if you spend your whole life in a career doing something, I guess, I don't know, you learn to look out for each other. Not that Billy Connolly spent his whole life doing it, but I feel like the other people looked out for him, even though they might play pranks on him or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like there definitely was a sense of like community there, and that he was sort of, they were looking out for him, even if they didn't know what was going on, like at home, for example, or what happened to him growing up. I think that was probably quite a fundamental part of his early adulthood, I guess. Because when was it he started working there? Was it after he went? Yeah.
Back in 2016.
Yeah.
I think like it gave him a sense of freedom as well. Like he was out from under that atmosphere a little bit more, and he was away from the abuse of the home and also the abuse of school, because obviously he could still be beaten and things like that. So yeah, he could be away from all that, and like you say, he had that sense of community, and he was a bit more like an equal. And I think that's what everybody finds when they leave school. You get treated more as an adult and more as a peer rather than like a hierarchical society like school can be. So yeah, I think it was a chance to see that not every relationship in your life has to be a give and take between abuse and just taking it. Like I think he'd experienced with his aunt and his dad and his general home life and general school life as well. I think it was definitely a step in the right direction, a step towards the light for him almost.
Yeah.
Like to see that this is what relationships can and should be. Yes, they rib the shit out of each other, and that sort of group of men and boys together are going to take the piss and are going to have like prank wars and things like that. But it's still going to be a much closer society and much closer knit group of people. And he does say about people who died on the job, like people who fell from a height, people who got crushed. He's just like, it makes you realize that life is short, live it to the max. And I really, really I think that really shaped how he views his life and how he viewed like his Parkinson's diagnosis, which is just like, I've had a great life. Let's keep going. I'm not going to take away all the fun things that are going to make life not worth it just to live a bit longer. Like, I'm going to go happy. And I think you could argue that that's where that sort of mentality started, when he was working in such a dangerous environment where asbestosis and crush injuries and other ways that a human being could conceivably die was surrounding him all day, every day. So yeah, I think it was like a massive influence on who he became, basically, because it was such a pivotal part of his life as well.
Also the fact that it sort of caused the like loss of his hearing.
Yeah, that's a major thing. Yeah,
It's very. He talks a little bit as well about. There's another guy, I think he retired, doesn't he? And then he goes and does like a guitar set somewhere, and like all the welders are there watching, and it's this, it's that kind of support system. And you kind of, I think, do some of them come to shows around the world? I feel like they do.
Kind of like he's one of us sort of thing.
Yeah, and like they'll rib him and they'll tell him, you know, he's an idiot or whatever. But when it comes down to it, they're there to support each other.
Yeah. And also that guy that was doing the music set, he like kind of just fell off the radar. Like everybody thought he died, and then it's like, no, he's just playing music. He's here.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So yeah,
that instilled community that he never had maybe kind of bolstered him to do him, to figure, you know, be Billy, wee Billy.
Yeah.
Love to see it. Are we done on that point? Anyone else? Anything else?
I just like the thing of all like the silent gestures they would give each other. It's like, oh no, and the fact they take like 10 tea breaks. I'm like, I just want to be there for the tea breaks, please and thank you. Love a good tea break.
Not going to do pudding. Who doesn't love a good tea break, or coffee break, or beverage break? However you swing with your beverages.
Did you hear Mother then? She loves gin breaks.
No. I love a gin break. You're having a wine party, kid. Look at the size of that glass.
Yeah. I will say. It's a spritzer.
It's your post-COVID freedom drink. We should celebrate that Jess is negative today.
Yeah. I'm matching my shirt for the redness in my cheeks.
What does your shirt say? It says Eliza, but at first I thought it said pizza. I'm assuming that's a band.
Yeah, they've broken up now, and I'm very sad.
No,
I got that at the farewell gig, but anyway,
they will return, hon.
I bloody hope so.
We're just doing true Billy style here by going off on a tangent. I won't worry about it.
We've been doing
There's going to be a link like Eliza and the Bear played with Billy Connolly once or something like that.
Oh my god,
That would
I
be
think
quite
they were
iconic.
quite happy with that.
All right, next point. Billy dictated this book due to his Parkinson's, and obviously his daughters then transcribed it. How do you think that translates and therefore compares to other autobiographies you've read, knowing how Billy's constant stream of thought and storytelling is what he's famous for? So if anyone doesn't know, Billy, we've kind of touched on it, but Billy Connolly does have Parkinson's. He has struggles now with the use of his hands. So he used the dictator system to write his book, which is probably, one of the great things about the audiobook is Jess and whoever else listened to it. And because like Jess said at the beginning, his Glaswegian accent was quite tricky to pick up on the dictaphone. His daughters did help, and his wife helped transcribe it, just if anyone didn't know. So yeah, how do you think that can translate and therefore compares to other autobiographies you've read, knowing how Billy's constant stream of thought and storytelling is what he's famous for?
Well, compared to like the first autobiography I read, I just listened to it, and that was Born to be Mild by Rob Temple, the guy behind the Very British Questions or Very British Problems Twitter handle. And I didn't know that he was the guy behind it. The reason I got it was because Matt Baton, aka King Charles II in Horrible Histories, amongst other things, was reading the biography, and I was just like, I have to get this just because I love Matt and he's so funny and I know it will keep me entertained. So I listened to it, and it's very much like, it felt very stream of consciousness, but it does follow a sort of timeline as well. But it's not to this extent, where this is literally like Billy almost goes, oh, shiny object, and goes off on a different tangent. And I think that makes it so uniquely Billy that I don't think anyone, even if they were trying, could replicate it. And I think that's the best, for the best, because it is, like I say, so unique and so engaging. When I was listening to it and reading it, I couldn't put this book down. And for me, for an autobiography, that is the mark of a good autobiography, that I couldn't put it down when I picked it up. I read 150, 200 pages in one go. And if that was a fantasy, that would be nothing. But for me to be reading a non-fiction like that, I was just like, I can't put this down. He's so interesting, and the way he's presenting it is so interesting as well. And it just feels like you sat down having a cuppa with him. And I think that it really translated really well.
Yeah. I'm interested to know about like the technicalities of it, because I mean, sure, he might have just sat there for like 3 days just talking into a microphone and then they typed it all up, but obviously someone has to edit it and he probably has to change bits and chop bits out and add bits in and stuff. So I'm kind of just interested to know how that all works, like, because I know nothing about publishing.
I think he had a program that it was like spoken to, then type out. Like, so if you have like dyslexia or something like that and you struggle with note taking, you can get these programs that literally transcribe your lectures or whatever you're sat in doing. And I think he had that sort of software, but it couldn't get past the accent.
Yeah.
So it was writing everything wrong. So his family had to go in and edit behind him. And they were just sat there like, why do you go off on so many tangents? Well, I'd love to see the deleted scenes. I'd love to see
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely think autobiographies should be more someone just talking out their life, because that's when you get like the proper honest moments with just sort of stream of consciousness. Okay, where do we begin? Because that's when you find like who the person is when they're talking it through. Because if it's like, okay, let me write this age to this age, writing it out, you can be very picky about what you put in. But as soon when you start, like with myself, when I get going, there's no stopping me from talking. And it's just stream of consciousness, very much. And it's just more honest and open. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I've not read many other autobiographies. I've read... I'm not going to say which ones I've read because they're embarrassing. But I've read like Andy Murray's, and I read that in like one sitting. And then the other, obviously, there's a Billy Connolly one, which wasn't written by him. What else? I read Tom Daly's.
Oh, yeah.
I read. I've got Michelle Obama's to read, but I haven't read it yet.
Popped it. Listen to the audiobook.
Is it her?
Yeah.
Oh, I might. And they're all very like just. I mean, they've written them, but it's all broken down into very specific like life chapters, and as opposed to this isn't very. It's coherent, but in a very non-coherent way. Like it goes from. He says at the beginning, doesn't he? That's the only date I remember. You're not getting any other dates from me. And it stays very true to that, and it's just it kind of works its way through his life, but again it's just through points of his memory, less so phases in his life, if that makes sense. It's just him telling his story, which
yeah, and I guess in a way that was why it was so like different for me, because I'm so used to that sort of structured autobiography, whereas with this one, like you say, Jess, I guess probably the best reason why you should listen to it is because it does feel like you're just having a natural conversation with someone, but in a book. Because obviously if you're talking to someone you've just met and they ask you about your life, you're probably not going to just say this happened and then this happened and then this happened. You're going to go, oh, and then this, okay, let's go back to this, oh, and then this. You know, you link it into whatever they say and what you say, you know.
He's just got one of these really easy listening voices as well. And it was just so lovely. It was so relaxing. Like while I was in my COVID sickbed, it was just so comforting to have Billy Connolly just sat there telling his life story. And I was just like, I like this. This is comforting. You can do this again.
He is such a home safe, isn't he? Like I gravitate towards his content if I'm feeling like anxious or tired or frustrated or like scared or nervous, anything like that, or just if I'm not feeling on my equilibrium, if I'm a little bit like this, which tends to be the way, you know, he's such a homecoming. Also, I go to like friends YouTube videos, you know, which, you know, it's that kind of thing, isn't it? You go to your home comforts. Who knew all three of these guys have YouTube channels? You should check them all out. And it's that kind of thing, you know, like I love sitting down and watching my friends' videos because it's cozy and it's safe. And not that Billy Connolly's my friend, we wish. But, you know, it's the same kind of thing. You relate to him, you like listening to him and watching him.
I was going to say, you watch most of my videos to be calm, but then there's certain videos though where we made mistakes, and they are
definitely made. But it is just very cozy, and I think that's what, like, when, you know, say Jess, when you're in bed with COVID and he's so cozy to listen to, or like I'm sure anyone else can relate to those anxiety feelings where nothing really calms you down, and then you just have to hone in on a safe zone. And I think that's how he feels to me. And obviously, I'm not saying that is a universal reaction to Billy Connolly, because some people find him very out there and very offensive. And how dare you say a joke about
the Last Supper?
Yeah. You know, so, and I understand that. I'm not suggesting that, you know, his content is all PC, but and that I'm not saying that's what I necessarily enjoy, but like I really enjoyed his, like when he does his travel TV shows, they are so good because he's so interested in the person and the people he meets, and you're kind of fascinated about what he's looking at as well as he is, because he's so fascinated. It's not fake. It's not. He vests himself in the culture, and he's so integrated in everything that it's so true and cozy. And that's more the kind of. So I understand it's probably not for everybody, but that's the kind of vibe you get from reading it. Personally, obviously, I'm not suggesting that's what everyone else feels, but yeah. I feel like I'm going off tangent.
Well, it's on brand.
Style, yeah.
It's on brand for us and Billy.
That's true. Oh yeah.
I forgot.
Oh, so I was just looking back at my notes. Like, what were we talking about? Does it make it different? Because I mean, certain people like listen to audiobooks because they find reading challenging, which is, you know, such a great thing that those things that kind of platform is available now. So does it help the way that it was spoken, or do you know? I'm gonna just put that out there. Do you think, Nori?
I think it would have helped me, but carry on.
Well, I really like the audiobook because I've been having a bit of a physical reading slump. I've been smashing audiobooks. I was just like sort of trying to read it, and because also at the time I was midway through Panto Show Week, 2 weeks. I was about to start like the on stage bit, and I was like, I can't physically sit down and concentrate because also I was having bad mental health. So I was like, I'm going to bite the bullet, get the audiobook on Audible. I have a credit. It's fine. And then as soon as he started talking, I'm like, I am so glad I got this audiobook. 'Cause it's like, his voice is like, oh, now I'm getting into this book because I've now got Billy Connolly reading it to me.
Did you find the Glaswegian accent hard or no?
No, I love a good accent. Like, anyone with an accent, I'm immediately listening more than usual. Because my brain is like, oh, an accent. It's like interesting, but also I need to concentrate a little bit harder. So I always love an accent. It makes things more like I focus on them more because I partly have to, and partly because it's like, ooh, you have a nice voice that I don't hear too often.
Yeah, and I think as well sometimes in the book he writes words like with a Scottish sort of dialect, I guess, or that's something like that. So I guess listening to it for anyone would, then you would hear how he's saying it and it kind of just makes sense. Whereas I guess if you have never heard a Scottish accent or something and you're reading, like, okay, tangent a little bit, but it's still kind of related. In my second year of uni, I had to read Trainspotting. Zoe, I don't know if you did that. Cool. No. What was it? I think it was like postmodernism or something.
No, I didn't, and I'm glad because everyone hated it.
I wish I hadn't done it, but anyway. I read a whole 1.5 books for that course, I think.
Wow.
But yeah, that whole thing is basically just written in Scottish, like on the page. So I got Rory to read a little bit. Our good friend from Let's Act, Rory, Mr. Rory. Mr. Rory. Anyway,
Mr. Rory.
So I was reading it and then picked it up and started reading it in a Scottish accent. I was like, can you just carry on? Because I understand everything you are saying. But when I was trying to read it, I was like, I'm lost. I have no idea what's going on. And I kept trying to do the Scottish accent in my head, but I kept getting lost. So I feel like, although Billy Connolly's book isn't anywhere near like that, there were some parts where I was like, it would just be better if he was saying this, even though I can understand what's, going on. Yeah. So,
just the story about the pigeon is made 10 times better by hearing him say the word do.
Yeah. Mordu. I know that's from Brave, but same kind of thing.
It's like, as well, like, you're talking about, like, hearing him say it and it, like, makes more sense. It's like in Wuthering Heights, you've got the...
Yeah.
Oh, what's his name? Is it Joseph? I can't remember. But he speaks with, like, the Yorkshire dialect, and it makes so much more sense when you read it with a Yorkshire accent or you hear it. When I was studying at A-level, my teacher could do a very good Yorkshire accent. So we were just sat there going, carry on.
Keep going.
Yeah. But she was also Scottish. So when we did Macbeth, she just slipped straight into the accent. And I was just like...
Yeah, meanwhile, my GCSE English teacher was from Belfast. So when we were doing, what's it called, Of Mice and Men, she was trying to do an American accent, but it didn't work. It didn't work.
I can't imagine it did.
Yeah.
I feel like even if... What?
It was very entertaining.
More so than Of Mice and Men.
Yeah, I think I was listening to her just saying things rather than the book, so...
I mean, don't blame me. My English teacher was German, so that was always good.
Amazing.
She was fab, though. Let's not hate on Mrs. Lewis, because she was good.
My English teacher was a coursework pack of my own imagination.
Oh no!
That homeschooled life, y'all.
But I didn't know you were homeschooled, so I'm just sitting here like, wait, you were homeschooled?
Yeah, from
your teacher didn't show up.
13 to when I went to college.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Let's not. I will start asking about that, and then we'll get really off topic. So maybe when we're not live. I think even if because I know he dictated it partly because of the Parkinson's. I actually think it even if he didn't have Parkinson's, it would have benefited massively from him dictating it. Because I feel like you're writing something out and you're speaking something, it's a wholly different experience, isn't it?
Yeah. And I guess with writing, the reason I love writing, like on a blog, for example, I feel like I can get my thoughts out much easier when I'm writing it because I have the time to think, compared to when you're saying things. Obviously, once you've said it, you've said it. So it's interesting that, I guess, for him in a way, obviously with his Parkinson's, like that was the best way for him to do it. But I feel like he's totally different to me. Like, I think for him, obviously look at his stand-up, he can just say things and it works. Whereas for me, I could not just go on for like 2 or 3 hours and just say things and make it work. Like I would have to write a script if I was a comedian and if I was doing that kind of work. Like otherwise, I would just be a mess. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway.
No, but probably you can agree with this, Nori. I don't know whether you will, but as a writer as well, like when you're writing out like a scene or something like that, like because we both write fiction, we're writing a book together, and going back and reading it out loud really helps with picking up on like the little intricacies that you don't always think of. So I think definitely when you're writing, there is a place to for speaking aloud and then transcribing it, or having written it and then reading out loud. It helps so much more than you would imagine. So I can see him sitting there and just speaking this out loud, and it being so good just off the bat, because it is that stream of consciousness thought, and sometimes that really is an aid as a writer, is that sort of thought process. Some of the best writing can come from that. So yeah,
definitely.
It's the reason I exploit text-to-speech free software. So the amount of things I've made that software read, oh my goodness. if it could sue.
How many torture scenes have you written like that?
I think it's so interesting because obviously he talks about his own struggles so much, and obviously he talks about like the Parkinson's and then the prostate cancer and things that he was diagnosed with at the same time. It's like, imagine if you try and write that. I know for me, because my brain works in a very convoluted way, and my brain will try and make me write the most simple sentence in the most convoluted of ways, and I get to the point where I just don't understand what I've written because I've tried to make it sound something that, like, I try and shy away from the stereotypical way of writing that sentence, so I try and reword it, and I'm like, kind of like when you're younger and they're like, don't copy from the textbook, so you write it you write the exact same sentence but you move some words around.
Thesaurus and change everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he rode to the north, and you write to the north he rode. It's that kind of vibe. So I think
when you never use the word nice, it's like,
or
what if it's nice?
Yeah, it's that kind of vibe. So I think speaking that, because he's so casual about it. He's like, it's all good now, I have prostate cancer, and it's done. And I don't know whether to try and write that, would that be harder than to just say it? Because sometimes as well, when you write things, case in point is like when you're texting someone and it like they read it in the wrong tone of voice, it can land you in so much trouble. And I think
been there.
And I think that you mean it in a jestful way, but it's come across in the complete wrong way. So whether if you wrote down those bits about being diagnosed with Parkinson's and cancer all at the same time, it could come across as incredibly dire, but because he's said it in his jovial kind of way, it doesn't feel like to come across as morbid as maybe it could be. So I think that's another reason the dictation really works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know, like, sometimes I have to, like, message someone, like, I need to rant. It's like, okay, you can message me. It's like, no, this needs to be spoken aloud in a very angry tone of voice. Sometimes you can't get the thoughts of why you're so irritated onto paper, because when you put them onto paper, they look ridiculous, but you know that they're not. It's like they have to see your face and hear your voice.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
My knee.
Does anybody else have anything to say on that point, which is about dictation, if anyone needs a reminder?
I just think it's a very underutilized tool in the writer's arsenal. I really think that it is underutilized, and I might start using it a little bit more when finishing this monster of a first draft. Because cracked 100,000 words, baby.
Yes. Yes, queen.
So, the likelihood of me turning up on your doorstep, Zoe, and going, here is a loose manuscript.
Great.
Not
a stack of paper.
And just drive off again. We'll be like, bye.
Yeah.
And then I'm imagining Jess handing you the manuscript, and then just like a breeze comes and starts taking all the pages.
Oh my
It's like,
gosh.
no,
Have you seen
I'm
like that
burning
scene in
my
Love
fingers.
Actually? Oh my goodness. Oh God, she's in.
It's like, I hope there's no eels in the water. Eels. It's like, don't kick around too much, you'll disturb the eels.
The eels. Oh, I really hope that doesn't happen.
Oh my god.
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next point. Trigger warning, Jess.
Okay.
Okay, so Billy talks about life horrors, abuse, abandonment, suicide, accidents, alcoholism, which we haven't actually touched on yet, etc. And obviously we talked about like the cancer and the Parkinson's, thing like that. He often says how he can't believe he's still alive, pointing cases when he's driving and he crashes his cars all the time. Oh no, what did I write there? That doesn't make sense. Oh, he shaped himself into a hugely successful and clean man. He hasn't drunk. Is it 23 years he's not had a drink now? 20, something like that. He's been sober for
5, I think it was.
something like that. So he shaped himself into a hugely successful and sober man. How do you think his story can inspire others?
Sorry, I'm just doing maths.
I can't. I'll have a look at the back because I think he says it at the end, doesn't he?
If it's 1985, that's 37 years.
It's a long time he hasn't had a drink, isn't it? Because he drinks with like
Kudos.
yeah.
I think it's inspiring in a lot of ways. Okay, I guess if we're talking about like the mental health side of things, the fact that he's an older guy, Scottish guy, who could maybe be seen as from the era of being very dismissive of a lot of problems, you know, like caused by drinking or by like I don't know, whatever it could be. I think it's good that he's actually talking about it because I feel like he has such a diverse audience. I mean, I would imagine he does anyway. So I think it's just good that, you know, he's saying something. So then if he does have someone reading his book and learning about his life and stuff, you know, I guess it's a cliche to say that they know they're not alone, but like that's kind of the fact sort of being portrayed here is that like, you know, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from or whatever's going on. I think it is a very inspiring thing, you know, even as me, who I would like to think I don't have any problems. I say it sort of like this. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Even for me, I think it's one of those things where it's like I could come back to this book and probably take something else away from it that I probably wouldn't have thought of this time around, if that makes sense. Yeah. Depending, you know, what stage of your life you're in as well and stuff like that.
Yeah. It definitely makes you feel, like you say, not alone in the sense that if someone, I mean, again, I'm not speaking from experience and I don't want to speak out of term, but a lot of people that suffer with, say, alcoholism, it's kind of a shameful thing for them. And it's like, oh, I'm so ashamed that I'm like this, you know, or I suffer with this, or I have this thing that I need help with. And they often say, isn't it, asking for help is the biggest step. And I think if someone was to read this and he speaks so casually about it and he's just so like, yeah, this is it, you know, people suffer from this. I've suffered from it. I got over it. I haven't had a drink, you know, and it just makes you possibly feel less, like you say, less alone and feel less like you shouldn't be ashamed of it. You know, you can't control the circumstances in your life. And if that leads to, you know, to say alcoholism or something, you know, it doesn't make you a bad person. And I think it's important that he's so open about that, even with like mental health issues, you know, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And for someone with such a huge following, someone that is so influential, someone that says in this book maybe 100 times, I couldn't care a jot, like he doesn't care about anything in that regard. He doesn't care about offending people because he thinks, you know, it's so, but then he's so obvious to say something like, I struggled with this, I know it was a problem, I'm not there anymore. And I think it's really powerful that he speaks so casually and so openly about it, but not in a patronizing or kind of support group kind of vibey way, you know.
It's not condescending, is it? It's like it's from a place of I've been there and I've experienced it and this is how it happened and this is where I am now, sort of thing, isn't it? It's like it's just kind of looking back on his experiences, and it's not saying I did this, so should you. It's just I did this, it worked for me, or it didn't, you know, whatever it is that happened and whatever the outcome was. So
want to say I'm
100%.
very, very open. I'm a complete open book about my mental health stuff. Like, I'll talk to someone like 5 minutes after meeting them. I'll go, yeah, I was on antidepressants for nearly 3 years. It's just like, it's a major part of like my story at points, but it's not something that defines me now. It's an important life
100%.
experience I've gone through, and I've come out the other side. And I think that's something that should be highlighted, is that it's not the be all and end all. If you need the drugs like for the rest of your life, then that's also not the be all and end all as well. I think the way he tackles mental health and like the mental side of things that he's been through is very, very well done and very delicately handled. But he's also like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I've been through this. I've been through shit, and this is what happened. This is how I dealt with it. Might not work for you, but this is what I've been through, and he just goes with it. And I think that's, again, it comes back to him being so authentically him, and it's so refreshing that he's not following a formula.
Yeah.
Things way, and he talks about mental health his own way as well, and it's just it was kind of liberating to read it like that, to see someone seeing it as in a very, very similar way. As yes, it's something I've been through, but it's not something that defines me anymore.
Yeah. It's just a part of your life, you know. It's part of your makeup, where you are now. 100%. 100%. I can't find where it says how long it's been since he had a drink, but it's like a ridiculously long length of time. Yeah, and I really love that he talks about these massive names, you know, like this one's Keith Richards, for example. And he's like, he's such an extraordinary guy. I love him. Starts like completely celebrating this guy and everyone, this woman or this person that they are. And I'm thinking, you're an extraordinary guy. You're talking about them as if you don't mirror these achievements. And he's so down to earth, isn't he? It's just, even when he talks about like when he's up in his castle and this birthday party that Pamela did for him, you know, it's like he just makes a mockery of it, and it's like, this is ridiculous party, but it's so normal. He's like, this is so ridiculous, but it was brilliant. And you know, the people that he's like, oh, Elton John was there, and Robin Williams was there, and we're like, what? This is like one of those guest lists of dreams. And he just talks about it in such a jokey way. Love it. I can't find a bit about the drink.
Speaking about the birthday party, though, one of my favorite parts was just like the itinerary for the weekend.
Yeah.
I can't remember the details now, but that was just so funny. I was just like,
praise for the haggis.
yeah.
Isn't
I
it
never
like
want to eat that.
his castle? Doesn't he own a castle or something?
Yeah.
But he may even, there you go. So Dr. and Dr. Connolly request the pleasure of company to celebrate his sex and geniality and his not giving a saggy-assed F thereof. And then it says 6:30 p.m. Highland welcome, wee bevies on the lawn, pipe band. 8 p.m. dinner and special just to the, sorry, my clock. Just to the haggis. 10 p.m. dance a wild jig. Midnight stovies and champagne, bare bum cavorting. Dress formal black tie kilt or windswept and interesting. And then the Sunday is 12 noon, Caledonian brunch, addressed to the quiche, afternoon fishing, caber tossing, gorge walking, cycling, hiking, abseiling, banjo playing or shooting the breeze. Warning, all golfers will be effed and burned. 4:30 p.m. afternoon tea, addressed to the scone, falconry, archery, punting, pontificating or a vicious game of croquet, Glasgow rules, full contact. 7 p.m. barbecue, campfire, music, addressed to the sausage, fireworks. 11 p.m. tall tales and outright fabrications addressed to the nightcap, dress, jeans, breeks, or rumpled intensity.
It just gets
I
more
love
ridiculous.
that they just address everything.
Yeah.
Isn't that something that I don't know whether I make it up, but isn't that something like the royal family does, like addressed to the?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, makes sense.
It does make sense, doesn't it?
It's so funny.
We love to see it. There's only a very brief mention of suicide in the book. I'm sure there is. I think he was considering it at one time, but it's not. You know, the things that he talks about that he's surprised he's still alive about is the fact that his life was so ridiculous. You know, even with the welding thing, Jess, you were talking about it earlier, kind of the things that come as a consequence of welding, and the crashes he's had in the car, the drinking, the late nights, everything that his life has led has been so shifty.
The rock and roll lifestyle in the 70s and things like that.
Yeah. So I think you're right. If there's the inspiration, I think he's an inspiration without probably even realizing that he's an inspiration. Would that be?
I feel like a lot of people are like that. You know, the people you find inspiring just on the everyday. You know, it doesn't even have to be a celebrity. They'll be like, "Oh, well, what have I done?" You know, but it's those people who have done the most in a lot of ways.
I find you guys all inspiring. Just throwing it out there. And Mariette, but she's not here to hear it.
And that's you as well.
I think it's true that it's very, I find, Billy Connolly's a massive inspiration for me. But then,
so this is where we go around the show. Go, what's inspiring about X, Y, Z?
So I find Billy Connolly massively inspiring, but then I also find you guys massively inspiring, and I think it's not necessarily the level of platform a person's got or the fame of them. It's what they stand for, maybe, or what they do, because there's some of the most famous people in the world, like the Kardashians, for example. Don't find them aspiring a jot. I think but they're probably some of the most famous people unnecessarily in the world, but that's a whole different topic. So I think that's one of the great things about him, is that he's such a silent inspiration to many.
And I think because it comes back to his authenticity. He's just so unapologetically him. I think that's what I love about all of you guys, is that we are all unapologetically ourselves. Like, we don't give it, like me and Nori were both just like pride, just like sort of thing.
Took many years, but we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
We're not apologising.
We're here. We're 365 days a year. It's like Zoe, like your faith, and Janet, your work ethic, and Mariette, like her ability to just be so kind in the face of everything. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be like the big things in life. Like, you don't have to do like a big TED talk that's like inspirational to everybody, but you can still be an inspiration to someone. And it's just like living your truth and being unapologetically you, I think, is the best thing that someone can do in their life.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm inspired by such and such because they go on 4 or 5-star holidays every couple of months and they live that kind of life. It's like, but what do they actually give you as an individual?
It's like those small things. Like I say, like Zoe, your faith is just so like impressed. Like, it is so inspirational to me. Like, because I don't have that in my life, and I don't think I could ever have that sort of thing in my life. But it's just so amazing to see someone else that has that, like that as part of their life. So,
you guys,
picking up my friends.
We love inspiring each other and bigging each other up. It's the best part.
It's literally 90% of our messages in the group chat.
It's like, you're so great.
I will start writing sonnets about all of you. Fair warning.
Has anyone ever considered that Nori might be the reincarnation of Shakespeare?
Well, we're off.
I have.
Wednesday.
We'll see if we go to Stratford and I suddenly black out for no reason.
You're going to go into Shakespeare's house and you're going to like start blending in.
We're actually on Shakespeare's birthday, so.
Have you been to Stratford before?
No.
Oh, you're going to have the best time. It's beautiful.
We're
I absolutely adore it there.
We're going to a cat cafe called Shakespeare.
Oh my god.
I pre-booked the birthday package.
Of course.
I'm an adult.
Oh, you're gonna love it. It's such. My auntie used to live there. It's such a beautiful town, and
it's also a nice place, so I'm happy.
It's very, very cool, and there's so much Shakespeare everywhere. I know.
I'm so excited.
This is my right. Shakespeare tattoo.
Bow, bow, bow.
There he is.
There he is.
There he is.
His face. His beautiful face. I'm gonna get a second one at some point.
It's
gonna be like here. One day, full sleeve.
Nice. All the references you've got planned are amazing. Exit sign.
All right, I have one last question.
Final question.
Did you like
phone a friend? Yeah. Did anybody else think it was rubbish? No, I'm joking.
Yeah, this whole thing was a lie.
Yeah, we actually hate him. No, we don't. Oh my god, no one ever used that against me. What does
Oh,
windswept and
great.
interesting mean to you? Oh,
Oh,
I think going
peak
against the grain,
goals.
yeah,
peak goals.
going against the grain and being unapologetically you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think.
not
I mean,
caring-
obviously. Sorry, just want to say something. I feel like I cut someone off.
Oh, you go.
Okay.
There we go.
I feel like he has a description of what it is, kind of, but also I think it's up to interpretation. So I think that's a good metaphor for life. You know, if you're going to live your life windswept and interestingly.
Mm.
Uh,
He does say in the book, like, if you ever want to be it, or you ask me how to be it, then you're never going to be
Yeah.
it, and you're not it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
so hard.
And
So I
you
think-
can't claim that you are windswept and interesting. Someone has to say you are windswept and interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think it's kind of like you said, just living your life how you want to live it and not sort of doing it by what everyone else says you should be doing. You know, you shouldn't be asking, oh, is this how I should live my life? Or should I do this? Or should I do this? It's kind of like, no, just do you. Like, yeah.
Not caring that there's a close to hurricane buffeting you in the face at every opportunity.
Exactly.
Like, being windswept is like that's like anyone can be interesting, but being windswept shows that you've gone through stuff and you're still going through stuff, but you're getting through it.
Yeah.
And you look fabulous.
Fabulous. What's quite cool is to, I mean, again, not many people will notice if they, like, you guys didn't know much about him beforehand. There's this isn't just like a new phrasing for him. I mean, I only really recently learned this. Is there's a clip from one of his stand-up shows way back when. I want to say it's the 80s, but I can't remember. And he's doing this bit about him and Pamela going out for an evening or whatever, and he has, you know, one t-shirt screwed up in the corner, and Pamela's in the bathroom for hours, like all her creams and her makeup and her face, and he's there like, I don't know what to do, and she's like, why aren't you ready yet? And he's like, we're not leaving for another hour and a half, like, you know, that kind of vibe. And then he's like, she gets she does all this stuff with her hair and it's all, you know, fancy, and then he says, I just have one kind of, like, I go and get my hair done. He's like, I just usually go for windswept and interesting. That's my kind of vibe, you know, with his hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was like 30 years ago, 40, and he's still, you know, and it's still a reference even back then. So it's been obviously something quite pivotal for him throughout, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
I think.
Interesting.
Any other thoughts on windswept and interesting? As in the phrase, not the book.
I love like the idea that it's not something that you can actively aspire to. It's something that you eventually tap into, but you don't realize it. So it's, yes, it's a way of life, but it's also something that you can't really strive towards. You have to be authentic to be windswept and interesting. And I think that's like the most impressive thing about it. So it's all about being unapologetically you. And I know I keep repeating that, but that's kind of the thing I took away from this is like, don't go by what society says. Like, what does society really know? What is normal? There is no normal. Like, just be you. And that's something like since coming out when I was like 21, so going on 5 years. Geez, we're going on 5-6 years now. And since realizing that I didn't fit into like the norms of like sexuality and things like that, it's really helped my mental state. Like, it made me feel not broken. It made me feel like normal, but not in like society. It made me feel normal to myself. And that's what's important. As long as you feel normal to yourself, I think that's what matters. And I'm going off a tangent, but I think that's on brand.
It's on brand, very on brand.
Link to that.
Drink every time we go off on a tangent.
All right, I'm going to highlight my last point.
Minutes.
That was my last point, all scribbled off. Does anybody have huzzah? Any other thoughts, points, topics of conversation, questions, answers? Partridge in a pear tree.
I have no answers for anyone. Plenty of questions, but then none of them are relevant.
Mood. Well,
Nope.
To
No?
sum up, we love Billy Connolly.
We stan a king.
We do.
Does anyone have April's pick to hand?
Oh, oh goodness.
Janet?
Where'd I put it? It's over there.
Yeah, mine's in my room. I
My
can't bother.
copy smells secondhand.
Secondhand on Depop is quite shiny.
I've got mine from the library. So
Mine's
Janet,
over there. I bought it ages ago, but then I also found it on my library app as an audiobook, so already smashed that one out the park.
amazing.
Yeah, you did finish it really early, didn't you?
Yeah, Janet started reading it. She's loving it. Nori's already read it. They loved it. So we're reading The Phone Box at the Edge of the World by Laura Imai Messina.
Yes.
Oh, well done, Jess.
I mentioned it in a vlog. That's why it's stuck.
Oh.
I had to edit that clip so many times. So yeah, we're reading that. That's Mariette's first pick of the year. That is her out of comfort zone pick. Basically, what would you do if you had the chance to say
Anything.
last words or anything to someone that you've lost? It's very much a similar concept of the before the coffee gets cold, but without the time travel. It's what would you say? What would be the last thing if you got the chance? Would you say to someone you lost? And it's going to be tackling like grief and things like that. So it's Janet, you're saying it reads quite easily, but it's tough topic material, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's easy to read. Well, I think partly why it's because it's got short chapters for one, and secondly, every other chapter is kind of not exactly related to the story, but it breaks it up a little bit. It breaks it up nicely. So like I said in the chat, like there's stuff about the music, for example, that someone's listening to on a road trip and they just list all the songs, and that's like a chapter, for example.
Nice.
Or like the note that they made one day, or the clothes that someone was wearing one day, or someone was thinking,
Or
things like that. So
there's one
I quite
that,
like
I think it's later on, it's like, what is packed in this person's lunchbox?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it makes it, I think it's definitely more, well, from what I've read so far, it's more character driven rather than plot, but it makes it makes them feel more real, I guess. And
it's very literary fiction again. So we've got that for April. Then May we have A Bookshop in Algiers by Kaouther Adimi.
Yes.
I apologise if I've mispronounced that. That's Janet's second pick of the year. And then June, rounding up the first half of the year, is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is my first
Janet.
one.
Oh, look at them both.
And that's my outer comfort zone because it's lit fic and historical fiction, but it is queer. So
My friend said it's really, really sad.
Lion Sapphic rep.
For anyone who's interested, the paperback comes out on the 26th of May or something like that. So the hard copy is
It's tiny.
It's like less than 200
pages.
It's like
190 something. And I was
really
like, thank goodness.
Yeah, mine says about 150. But yeah, the paperback comes out at the end of May. So if you wanted to get the paper copy, it'll be out.
It's like 143 if you count the sources and the acknowledge, the acknowledgement.
But that's our May book club pick. This month's book club pick is The Phone Box at the Edge of the World by Laura Imai Messina, and that is Mariette's pick. So we'll be back at the start of May for that. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please remember to give us a like and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Hit notification bell so you know when we go live. Follow us on Instagram. Twitter. In the description. Twitter, and loads of other personal links. The only one I didn't include in there is my Patreon. So if anyone wants to follow me on Patreon, I'm going to be doing early access for lower tiers for my YouTube channel, but also my book when that gets finished. I think it's either the £5 or the £10 tier. You get access to the ebook. I can't remember which one it is. But if you go for the very, very top tier, you get full access to the book. You get a first limited edition, signed, dedicated copy when they get printed, and also access to the full cast audiobook. So,
quick question: do we have to pay for the signed, dedicated copy of the gigs then?
Hello, we're the editors. We don't need to.
Yeah, you guys are the beta team and the alpha team, so you're fine. But yes, anyway, Patreon.
Links to our blogs. Everybody, bloggy
and
people.
YouTube
Links to my Instagram and hopefully YouTube.
Yes.
See me ramble some more.
You've got my YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, blog, and other things. Janet's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, blog, and Goodreads. Nori's Goodreads, Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and Zoe's
I
blog.
don't use the Twitter. Don't
Yeah.
bother
Who
going
uses
there.
all these social medias here?
Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We're rambling. It's very on brand. And we will see you next month for Phone Box at the Edge of the World. Stay safe, peeps. We'll see you soon.